Alright, so today we are going to be checking out Nostalgia Critics, the Pee-wee movies. Now, I have been a fan of Pee-wee ever since Big Adventure. That was my introduction into Pee-wee, and I've loved it ever since. I've seen that movie again, I've seen that movie probably about definitely over 10 times now. I really enjoy it. So we're going to hear what Nostalgia Critic has to say. This came out not long after Paul Reubens had passed away. I just had not watched it. I wanted to do a reaction, and here's my chance to do a reaction. So if you like this type of content, want some more content like this, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's go ahead and dive into this video, and I'll give you guys my thoughts during and after the video.
This episode brought to you by DoorDash, the app that brings you food you're craving right now, right to your door. Also brought to you by Chime, the award-winning app and debit card that can save you money today.
Ladies and gentlemen, behold the outcast,
Yeah.
the creepy and depraved, the bizarre creations not meant for the normal world. Embrace the
Return to
twisted
Oz.
weirdness of
Creepy
freak
movie.
show cinema.
Yeah. Okay.
On July 30th, 2023, we lost Paul Reubens to cancer, and I lost one of my biggest childhood icons growing up.
I am the luckiest boy in the world.
I was a huge Pee Wee Herman fan as a kid. There's been plenty of adults who act like children for comedy, but Pee Wee created a whole world that supported it, and often in different ways. Whether it was in a playhouse, on the road, or in a circus, Pee Wee always found an environment for his oddness to shine. Much like the old Adam West Batman series, you could watch his adventures in two totally different ways as a kid and then as an adult, and both were equally entertaining.
Wow.
As a kid, you loved the energy, silly voices, and weird visuals. As an adult, you love the imagination, surreal humor, and of course, ton of innuendos that you missed when you were younger.
Now, Pee-wee, there's two things missing from this drawing.
I know, are they round?
Sometimes.
I know. Earrings.
He created an identity and even worlds that
Wow.
were all his own. So, I think it only makes sense to look at the
That's
movies
awesome.
that helped create those worlds. In honor of Pee-wee, we're gonna take a look at his 3 big movies, because they always had big in the title. Let's take a look back to 1985 to see...
Sorry, I want to go ahead and say I have not seen Pee-wee's Big Holiday, so I'm sure it's probably going to get spoiled for me. I wasn't planning on doing a reaction to it anyways. It is what it is. I was going to watch it in my free time, if anything. So I'm okay with watching it, you know, some clips here and there. So I just give you a heads up. I can't lie about it. I have not seen the movie, but I'm sure it's going to get spoiled for me here. Let's go ahead and look at this, though, because, again, this is something that I want to do in honor of Paul Reubens.
Tim Burton and Pee-wee's first movie. That's Pee-wee, not Paul Reubens, as he did a few very random movies before. Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Love this movie. My personal favorite.
Keep in mind, this is before Pee-wee's Playhouse hit the air, so he wasn't quite an established icon. However, he was popping up in more and more places, making appearances on several shows. Because of this, there was a sense of experimentation. It had not a huge budget, but just big enough that you could explore an idea, but also work within limitations in a creative way. The film centers around Pee-wee living in basically a funhouse, playing with toys, buying props, and fawning over his prized possession, his
What?
bike.
Good morning. I'm here.
When his bratty neighbor Francis, who seems to be mentally about the same age as him, about 7 or 8,
I know you are, but what am I?
I know you are, but what am I? Infinity.
proclaims he wants the bike for himself, Pee-wee refuses, resulting in it getting stolen. He goes on a road trip to...
I feel like I feel like Mark Holton and Paul Reubens' dynamic in this movie is pretty much the entirety of Step Brothers. I would have loved to have seen a Paul Reubens and Mark Holton movie just centered around them going on an adventure. I think that could have been hilarious.
try and get it back, and naturally stumbles across all sorts of strange characters along the way. The film is a perfect combination of both Pee-wee and Tim Burton.
Yeah.
Maybe because both were still in the process of discovering their styles, so neither one overshadowed the other. It certainly has a lot of surreal imagery that, being a PG-80s movie, is naturally scary as hell. But it also has that whimsical, out-of-left-field Pee-wee humor.
Could you tell me where I could find Kevin Morton?
Marlo, do you know what stage Kevin Morton is working on?
Yeah, it's stage 6.
Thanks.
If Pee-wee was just a big kid in the real world, I feel like his antics would get kind of boring. But much like Third Rock from the Sun, the charm comes from the rest of the world being odd too. There's a deleted scene where the owner of the prop store does his hair in a mohawk, which they had to cut out. But because the world is so odd and random anyway, you see him with the mohawk and nobody questions it. In a strange way, not explaining it almost makes more sense.
Probably just a dog.
Because the budget wasn't huge, the effects had to look a little cheap. But It just added to the bizarre nature of the film. A lot of them don't look realistic, but they do look otherworldly, sometimes having the feel of a cartoon, which is what Pee-wee usually feels like. A grown-up kid in a silly animated short. Everything from his obsession with his bike, his indifference to girls, his need to get the last stupid insult.
Pee-wee, listen to reason. Come on!
I'm listening to reason.
All harkens to not only how a child would act, but also how a child sees the world. To a little kid, you can befriend a bike gang by doing a dorky dance. That strange lady who dropped you off probably was a ghost. And if you sing Deep in the Heart of Texas, Texans will sing it.
The stars at night are big and bright.
Deep in the heart of Texas.
Though that last one might be more real to life than you think.
Big and bright.
The side characters and all their unique quirks feel right at home in this movie. You have no idea who or what is going to pop up next, but they always leave an impression.
Andy!
Andy!
Even the smallest role, like the older brother from Wonder Years. He only has a few lines, but man, do you remember them.
Yeah.
Been ready since first call. I am ready. Roll.
The jokes aren't so crazy they become overbearing, but they're not so subtle you forget them anytime soon either. They're just the right amount of odd. I have no clue why Pee-wee has that voice at the end of the film he cameos in.
Paging Mr. Herman. Mr. Herman, you have a telephone call at the front desk.
Maybe in the movie they thought his voice was too odd, so they dubbed it. Maybe that's how Pee-wee dubs ADR in a film. Maybe it's Maybelline, I don't know. It's part of what makes the film so intriguingly random.
Have you got any messages for room 104?
No, nothing right now, Mr. Herman.
I gotta bring up the music too. If it's a Tim Burton movie, it's very likely Danny Elfman is doing the score. And especially in the early days, he would add a level of energy that would ignite what, again, they admitted wasn't that high a budget.
Love that scene when he runs out with the
We've seen these
snakes.
kind of breakfast machines before, where they kind of put everything together in a goofy way. But Elfman's music takes what's honestly a pretty done idea and turns into an instantly entertaining event. The music, just like almost everything in the production, has a sense of energy and joy, even when it's trying to be dark and scary.
Dude, everything in this movie is its own character. I swear to God, everything in the movie is its own character. The sets, the music, the characters, everybody. There's so much going on in this movie. Like, I always feel like I'm missing something every time it's on, and I like watch it. It just.
There's a perkiness to everything on screen that's infectious and just puts you in a good mood. Whether it's riding by Santa Claus and Godzilla, sitting in a dinosaur's mouth, or having Buttercup hit on you, there's always something strange and fun.
No
around the
kidding.
corner.
That's Buttercup's voice
It's one of
actress?
those movies I can't say is a great film, but man, it's hard to find anything wrong.
Oh God, now that I think about it, her voice sounds just like Buttercup. That just hit me. Sorry.
It did such a good job
Sorry.
defining its own world with its own rules and having such a good time doing so that it never gets in the way of its own good time. It's a silly, but enjoyable, one-of-a-kind classic.
Big Top Pee-wee's next.
Then there's the other ones.
Splendid. I'm very satisfied with these results.
I might need a minute before I go into those.
Not as good. Not gonna lie, yeah, the Big Top Pee-wee, it was fine. It was enjoyable, some parts of it, but at the end of the day, I just does not come even close to Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Pee-wee's Big Adventure to me, and maybe it was the director, you know, having Tim Burton attached to it, who was also a massively creative director. I mean, I will say this, I say this all the time. Tim Burton's classic movies are beyond better than his more current movies, and Pee-wee's Big Adventure is no exception. It's just one of his best. And yeah, again, Paul Reubens, they were, you know, he put it the best way. It's like the perfect balance because they were both kind of still finding themselves, and they truly just blended together perfectly, like strawberries and bananas. They went together perfectly.
In 1988, Pee-wee was arguably at the height of his success. His movie was a smash hit. His new kids show was a smash hit. He was
Get to
popping
watch
up
it.
all over the place. He even
Pee-wee's
hosted
Playhouse.
Saturday Night Live and The Late Show in character.
You used to own a house here when you were a giant teen star with Fabian, right?
Yeah, we were both teenage idols at the time. You know.
Weird. So it only made sense to do a follow-up to the film that helped make him a household name.
Big Top Pee-wee.
Big Top Pee-wee had a bigger budget than before, more effects than before, a larger audience ready to see it than before, and there's a reason you probably haven't heard it talked about in a while. I watched this when it came out in theaters at the exact right age, and I put it on every once in a while, hoping this will be the time I like it. This will be when I see something I missed before that suddenly makes it brilliant. But no. Not only is this not a very good sequel, but it's a very boring sequel. Pee-wee this time stays home on the farm, because there's a lot of comedic possibilities there, when a tornado literally blows through town, literally blowing a circus off the ground. When everyone is found and accounted for, Pee-wee immediately takes to the colorful characters. Colorful in appearance, but not personality. We'll get to that in a bit. And asks if he can join. The problem is, not only do they not know where to put Pee-wee in the circus, but the townspeople, made up entirely of old folks, hate the circus and demand that they leave. Okay,
we don't like fun.
A circus seems like a good setup for this character in this world. It's funny Burton
it really does
to direct this, as he works circuses into his story so much. This time it's Randall Kleiser, who's directed some films I really enjoyed, some even including Paul Reubens.
See you later, alligator.
At first, it seems the film is going to work, opening with a dream sequence of Pee-wee as a rock star and then disguising himself as Abraham Lincoln, and everybody falls for it.
It's Abraham Lincoln!
The film has some fun actors, including Chris Christopherson, Valeria Golino, Benicio del Toro, Screech.
Oh wow, I was.
It's a good lineup. But almost everything that worked
Benicio
in the
del Toro.
first film is the opposite here. The world does not accept Pee-wee. It hates him.
I don't want you running around my store, Pee-wee Herman.
Everybody in town treats him miserably, and not in a fun way, just a miserable way.
I'm sure you two beautiful ladies wouldn't mind letting me go ahead of you.
Well, we certainly would mind.
No one is as important in this community as Pee-wee Herman. Game's over. Pee-wee Herman wants a pickle. First come, first serve.
All right!
There's nowhere to travel to, so if you don't like this location or these characters, you're pretty much stuck. And I don't know, maybe because the world of Pee-wee already seemed like a circus, the idea of introducing a real one, the more I think about it, kinda seems less magical. These circus folk are ungodly boring. They all look great, but they have no identity. Which proves the point that Pee-wee isn't the only thing that has to work about Pee-wee. It needs to be the environment as well. It's so weird to see some of these incredibly charming actors. Like, I perk up whenever
I'm sorry. No, he's making some valid points. I watched Pee-wee's Big Top Pee-wee, and I have to agree with him in a lot of cases that, yeah, the movie itself is extremely boring. There's not a whole lot going on with the circus folk, and you'd think there would be a lot going on. No, there's really barely anything going on. All they're really doing is just walking in the background most of the time, and occasionally the funniest, like an animal will make its way into Pee-wee's house, and he'll have to, like, you know, try to get it out or something. Like, there wasn't a whole lot going on with the circus folk, which surprises me now that I look back on it. Like, I really feel like he could have, if Tim Burton had a shot at this, he probably would have made it phenomenal. So it's kind of a bummer now that I think about it.
I see them in a film, just invoke no emotion whatsoever. Also, I don't know any other way to say this. The film's a little pervy.
Children! Oh,
yeah.
Dance is just teaching us to mud wrestle.
Huh. Okay, so there's always been innuendo with Pee-wee that had a very sexual lean to it. But part of the charm of Pee-wee is that he was a little boy in a grown man's body, so there's things that he, and even the kids watching, wouldn't catch on to.
But yeah, the way he jumps on a girl.
Well, check him out, Johnny.
Yeah, I will. I've had something I've wanted to do for a long time.
Like, Pee-wee doesn't really get into girls, and if he did, he didn't really know the reason why. In the stand-up special, he uses shoe mirrors to look up a girl's dress, but when she says she's not wearing underwear, he's disappointed.
I'm not wearing underpants.
He doesn't know why he's doing that. He probably just saw a friend do it and saw it annoyed her, so he did it to get attention. Here, he's horny as hell.
Yeah. Like, he's creepy.
I guess you could argue the character's growing up, pardon the pun. But even then, he seems kind of scuzzy. Like, he cheats on his girlfriend, who we later find out is his fiancée for someone at the circus.
Who was that?
She's my fiance.
They're both rightfully pissed off at him, and yeah, we are too.
Yeah.
What's charming
I
about
actually,
this? What's
dude,
funny about this?
Dude, I felt the same exact way watching the movie. I was annoyed with Pee-wee throughout the entire film. The way he's jumping on his, like, fiance and stuff in the middle of, like, a schoolyard and stuff like that. Like, it was kind of creepy the way he, like, tried to grab her hair and shit. It's weird. It was weird, and not in a good weird. I definitely the weird in the first Pee-wee where he was actually, yeah, a kid in a man's body, just he didn't know any better. But this one, he knows better, and he's not creepy. He's creepy as frick in this movie.
Pee-wee could be bratty, but there was still an innocence to the way he acted, and this just feels very out of character. Though if you think the mud wrestling joke was just innocent weirdness, they literally show two women mud wrestling later to symbolize two people having sex. So, again.
Huh.
Also, wasn't Chris Christopherson a singer first?
Needle in a haystack is very hard to find. I met this little woman, we had an awkward date.
Each time the band strikes up, cock-a-doodle-doo.
With that said, what does work in the movie, I'm not even sure is supposed to work in the movie.
What do you mean?
There are weird mistakes that I can't tell if are intentional or not, but they can sometimes get a laugh for how random they are. Like the pig in this movie can talk, but he literally doesn't say anything until randomly 10 minutes in, even though he's been on screen that whole time.
Let's see how this formula works.
Okay, Pee-wee.
It's so weird to wait that long, even though there were tons of other moments where any character would have said something, but doesn't. And also, it's pretty funny knowing that's Wayne White, the designer of the show, and a pretty big name artist now.
When I first met this hippo, I was really quite rude. Now that we're together, I'm so glad I was pursued.
There's a lion who sees him literally as food. He rushes towards him, but then it cuts to him being fine. What the hell?
Who's that fluffy kitty?
There's a moment where a bit of egg salad drops on Pee-wee's face and he uses his fiance's dress to wipe it off. And the next shot, there's not a speck on either of them. Like, hilariously so. Also, for a while,
I never noticed that.
The longest on-screen kiss of any movie. It goes on so long, the score actually runs out of music and then starts back up again. It's hard to say if these were all
I didn't even notice that.
Unintentional or half and half, but it does help give what's honestly a pretty dull movie a little of that surreal joy from the previous one. But because it was so dull, the movie failed to find an audience, resulting in bad reviews and a dismal box office. In fact, the whole Pee-wee craze was about to drop off because just as Pee-wee was going to the movies, Paul Reubens was also going to the movies.
Yeah.
Pee-wee would make a few appearances after, and some of them were very funny.
Yeah.
Heard any good jokes lately?
But with his show being canceled and him not appearing on shows anymore, his future looked bleak. Reubens finally took a break from the Pee-wee persona and took on a few supporting roles, many in Tim Burton films, which makes sense as they were both responsible for their cinematic debuts. Pee-wee Herman, as we knew him though, was out of the spotlight for 20 years.
Crazy. 20 years out of the spotlight. Yeah, people still give him a lot of shit for that incident. And if you read on it, it's actually the guy went to an adult theater and got caught masturbating in an adult theater. Pretty weird shit to get in trouble for, I grant you. Like, that is a strange thing to get arrested for. Just weird in general. You got that on your record. Like, that's ew. The character has not been used for 20 years until Pee-wee's Big Holiday, which I'm sure he's about to spoil. So we're gonna go ahead and watch it, and I'll give you guys my thoughts. Hopefully it was better than Big Top Pee-wee.
In 2011, Paul Reubens attempted to make a comeback with the character. He took his show on the road once more, with a variation of his original stand-up combined with the characters from his kid show. It was a mix of his old material and his new material, and for the most part, people seemed on board.
That's
While
cool.
Pee-wee certainly didn't hit the height of his popularity like he did in the 80s, people were excited to see their childhood icon back. So, in 2016, Netflix and producer Judd Apatow decided to give Pee-wee one last adventure. They teamed up to give us Pee-wee's Big Holiday. I'll be totally honest, when I first saw this film, I remember being underwhelmed. But watching it again years later, it actually is better than I remember.
Oh,
it clearly tries
that's
to
good.
return to form like the first film, with Pee-wee going on a road trip. This time, instead of trying to get his bike back, is to go to the birthday party of Joe Manganiello. And no, he's not playing a character, he's literally playing himself. In this world, he's kinda like the cool version of Pee-wee, so they immediately hit it off. Tired of being cooped up in one place and never traveling, even though he clearly did in the first one, but I guess this is a reset. He packs up and makes his way to California to hopefully make his friends party in time. Of course, bumping into a bunch of colorful characters along the way. I like the guy's celebrity that's not a nobody, but not a household name either. And he plays up doing the same stuff as Pee-wee, but in a cool way very well. And it's nice to see Pee-wee
cool.
traveling again, regaining that spontaneity that was missing in the last one. Plus, the film is funny. Most of the jokes have either comedic or surreal payoffs. Like whenever Pee-wee dreams of being at the birthday party, he dreams it in Spanish. There's absolutely no reason why, and once again, that just makes it even funnier. So why do I remember this film not being that great the first time I saw it? It's obviously trying to be like Pee-wee's Big Adventure again. But it turns out that's the issue. I'm constantly comparing it to Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
And it doesn't hold up.
I wouldn't really do that with the kids show or with the stand-up.
Nah, makes sense.
Hell, even Big Top Pee-wee I could kind of accept as its own new thing. But there's a lot of similar beats in this one. Like every film always opens with a dream. In this one, he's saying goodbye to an E.T./Mac-and-Me style alien, which is pretty hilarious. Once again, there's criminals on the run, there's a silly wake-up sequence, there's a woman looking to travel, played by the same actress who played Simone.
I thought
There's
so.
characters
Yeah,
that
looks
come
like
back into the movie again. There's even a few jokes from Big Top Pee-wee where he puts on a painfully fake disguise and everybody falls for it. I don't mind too much, except the characters in Big Adventure are unforgettable. I'm always gonna remember Francis and Simone and Dottie and Large Marge and Mickey and the Bike Gang. These characters aren't bad, but they seem like they're there just to perform the joke. They don't leave nearly as big an impact as the ones from Big Adventure. The only exception are the bank robbers, who I think are doing a parody of the Violent Years. One of them even has a Glenn or Glenda type sweater. Also, hi Maribel. Man, no wonder these movies are
No
like cartoons.
way.
They practically star cartoons. But still, it has a similar spirited oddness as the first film that, while not quite matching it, is still appreciated. Not every joke works, and I certainly wouldn't call it a big finale, but in a weird way that feels right. The trilogy ends with him just going to a friend's birthday party. I don't know, there's something really wholesome and charming about that. I think if you compare it to Big Top, but not too much with Big Adventure, you might find yourself having a good time with this. And that's certainly something this character has given us.
I'll have to check it out.
Pee-wee Herman is one part child and one part adult, so it makes sense his humor would appeal to one part child and one part adult. He found a unique kinetic energy that connected with kids, but also connected with grown-ups' memories of being a kid. With each, though, he always added something a little extra, whether it's his trademark suit and bow tie, or high to low voice, or just little inappropriate jokes you didn't know were inappropriate until you got a little older. When the character was done right, he created a world that was strange and operated on a completely different level of logic. But it was still a level of logic you could follow and laugh along with. The Pee-wee movies were interesting comedic experiments. Sometimes they worked, sometimes they didn't, but they create a character that'll stay with us for decades to come. Thank you, Paul Reubens, for leaving us a timeless icon.
He's iconic. I mean, he is. Pee-wee Herman is iconic.
The luckiest boy in the world. Goodbye. Bye, boys and girls.
What the heck?
I'm the nostalgia critic guy, remember? So you don't have to.
All right. All right.
Roll.
Okay. Paul Reubens, rest in peace. I it was heartbreaking when I found out he had cancer and he passed away from it. It was something that just shocked me because I was at my work and I was scrolling through my phone and there it was, Paul Reubens passed away, and I was just like, holy crap. That's crazy, because after my reaction to Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which a lot of you guys know, I did a movie reaction to Pee-wee's Big Adventure quite a few years ago, and it stuck with me for so long. I've seen the movie probably over 10 times now, if not more than that. I just absolutely love it. It's probably even my favorite Tim Burton film of all time. I've seen it so many times. It has such a rewatch value to it. Big Top Pee-wee, not so much. It does not work for me all too well. As much as I really wanted it to, I've seen the movie twice, and the second time around, I just stopped watching because I just didn't care. Unfortunately, that's just how I felt about it. And then I have not seen Pee-wee's Big Holiday, so I might have to check that one out, guys. Seriously, I will look into it if you guys want me to. Leave a comment down below. Let me know if I should check it out. If I shouldn't, let me know. I'll probably check it out anyways because I am a big Paul Reubens fan. Again, more of his Pee-wee character than anything. Although I did love him in Buffy the Vampire Slayer too. I did a reaction to that one, and he was hilarious in that. And I was so heartbroken to find out he passed away. So, anyways, guys, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I'll do more Nostalgia Critic reactions if you guys so wish, and I'll check you guys out in the next video. Keep it retro. Do take care.